right, so this is our table talk on climate change. So I'm going to have us begin. Would you say that climate change is affecting your family, your community? Anyone can start.
I came from a rural community, and all of the troubles of the rural communities being depopulated over the years. And it's hard to find a job there. So I have family who don't have a lot of excess money, and food costs more because of climate change. It just does, you know? A lot of things cost more, but food is a very real thing.
So I wanted to touch base a little bit with Dale, and I think he makes a really good point, which is the cost of this is going to be borne by those who can't afford it as well. So like, I think of a very concrete example. This is maybe a bit silly, but if my energy bill triples, it'll be annoying to me to pay that, but I can do that. There's a lot of people, especially in the developing world, that their energy costs triple. It takes them from just having that energy to going back off the grid, essentially, and that's brutal for them. Brutal for them.
I work at a local community health center in the city of Milwaukee that's based on the south side. And our department is environmental health, so we do a lot of work based on climate change and the effects that it's having on our communities, specifically to their health. And we're seeing this in ways that I didn't know necessarily was like connected when I was growing up.
I think what I gathered from all of you is that climate change is an important issue to you. You think there's a government role. So let's flesh this out a little bit. Like, what would this government role look like? So I'll start first thinking about taxes and providing tax incentives or rebates. Do you support that sort of approach to addressing climate change?
There does have to be some government involvement, but I think the bulk of it will come from private investors in the private sector in general.
I think tax incentives have a role in that way to maybe subsidize electric cars, but it's a whole picture thing in terms of electric cars have their own problems as well that we're going to see down the line. I talked to a battery producer in Milwaukee actually the other day, and he's like, we're about 15 years away from seeing what lithium waste looks like, and nobody's thinking about that right now. And it's kind of I can go on forever, so I won't keep going, but it's always a balance and trade-off question.
I wish that more countries will collaborate, better, not just politically, but, actually do work. And I'm gonna say COVID-19 is a good example. Look how fast we got a vaccination. When, all the companies around the world seem like, oh, okay, this is the world's problem. This is the number one thing. We got to get on this, and boom, we did come up with, a solution, okay? It's gonna be argued if it's the best solution or not, but at least that energy that's around that particular problem, got noticed, got things done. And somehow, some way, we need to find that type of pattern or that type of path to do it with climate change.
I'd like to, for a minute, take it in the directly opposite direction from global to your own backyard. And Darrell told me about his front yard. He got rid of the grass and he planted ground covers, right?
Right.
And, if a couple of billion other people in the world did that, it really would make a difference in how much, gasoline-powered lawnmowers are spewing into the air. And so, we all would like to have some big fix, some grand thing that would make the difference. But it's going to come down to each of us as individual human beings deciding how we're going to live and whether we can do the things in our own house, in our own backyard to help.
One of the things that I may suggest doing is local governments could maybe incentivize some of the high rises we have here in Milwaukee or other of these, the boring glass buildings, office buildings, to use their walls or, the ceiling to add a variety of native foliages, which not only spurs and assists with biodiversity, which is important, but also helps the whole, climate change problem, and it can help offset some of their own carbon emissions. So my point is there's a variety of different options here.
I think one of the things, just to kind of take us back up a little bit more globally, is if we can help some of the people in the developing world get energy. I think like 60% of people in Africa don't have access to reliable energy. And when you don't have that and you're living in poverty, you don't think about the environment. So this is I don't want to use the cliche, but thinking about the stuff like green buildings and all that stuff, it's a first world problem in some sense.
So I do have a toast, all right? Let's raise our glasses to continue dialogue in our communities.
Here, here.
Here, here.
Here, here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.